Welcome to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe to the channel for all your New York Mets in-game live, pre-game, post-game, round-table podcast, and all the breaking news for our New York Mets. Enjoy the show and let's go Mets.
City lights in the dead of night, full of echo. Concrete jungle, dreams bust to grow. Mets in the air, chase glory, no fear. Broken backs, but hearts steer clear. OMG, the chaos, what a scene. Streets buzzing like a machine. Grimace from the shadows, chills on my spine. Past haunts, the future shine. Comebacks in the night, keep dreams alive. Fighting tooth and nail just to survive. City's heartbeat echoes in our chant. Grit and glory is all we want. Brooklyn to Queens, hear the roar. From laughter to blood in every scar. Living legends made on this ground. From silence we scream, make a sound. Rising high, falling low, repeat again. Cycles of the game, addicted to the pen. Graffiti tales spray on the wall. Met saga, forever stand tall. Rivals smear, but we push on through. Every heartbeat bleeds, orange and blue. Grimace fades, turn into a storm. In the Mets family, we are reborn.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another Mets Talk Live off-season edition right here on the channel. Hopefully, everybody is doing okay in this early part of the off-season. Obviously, there's so much that has to happen before we even get started talking about the Mets off-season, even though they did make a minor league move that could be an interesting piece going forward in spring training with the minor league signing. We will talk about that. We'll talk about a lot of other things, potential trades, potential free agents, top Mets prospects that could be a focus for the 2025 season, a couple of trades that we're going to look out for that could be a possibility based on free agents that the Mets might either pass on or lose out on. And, of course, a little bit of World Series talk as the World Series does continue, as the Yankees did beat the Dodgers and avoid getting swept by the Dodgers at Yankee Stadium. So make sure you hit that like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing it. Look, we're going to do Mets Talk Live until the World Series is over. And when it's over, that's when the fun begins. As you can see on the bottom below me is the new and official logo for the Mets Hot Stove podcast with myself and CP as soon as the World Series is over. The next day starts the Mets Hot Stove podcast. So there's a couple of things you guys need to do here. Follow us on X at NYM Hot Stove. That's where you're going to get all the information that we're going to be talking about throughout the Hot Stove period. Obviously, we're going to be reposting it on our own accounts, but we want to bring all the eyes into the NYM Hot Stove. I am also going to be talking about bringing up an actual giveaway for the people that follow the Mets Hot Stove account and also retweets it, subscribes to both channels, myself and Chris's. And I'm going to be doing a giveaway, and the giveaway is going to be pretty cool. You probably can't see it behind me. I don't think you can see it, but it's actually up here. But it's actually in my thing right now. But it's a signed baseball by a former Met. It's an official signed baseball. It has the official identification of the baseball and the signature. So it's an official signature of a former New York Mets that a lot of people love as New York Mets fan. And I'll bring that up when we get closer and closer, and probably into the first show. But make sure that you follow the account, subscribe to the channels, and make sure you're ready to go, because as soon as the World Series is over, we will start the show, start the podcast, and that's going to be the main show with the both of myself and CP. Obviously, if there's breaking news, if there's whatever happens during Met season, and we do our own shows, but our official show, instead of the pregame, postgame, is going to be the Mets Hot Soul podcast throughout the offseason. So all the news, rumors, everything you need to talk about during the offseason, arbitration, guys, all that fun stuff, qualifying offers, will be talked about on the Mets Hot Soul with myself and CP. So it's not David Wright. It might be Armando Benitez. I know a lot of Met fans love Armando Benitez. Maybe some Brady and Looper. How about some Brady and Looper? Right? How about that? How about K-Rod, Francisco Rodriguez? Keep on talking about all the wonderful closes of Mets history going. But no, it is a position player. It is a guy. Bobby Bonilla. No, I think he can sign his own baseball with the money the Mets are giving him every year. So, listen, guys. This is always a lot of fun when we come up with new ideas, new shows, because we want to establish something that is fun for all of us Met fans, right? There's not a lot that could go on early on in the offseason. It might, you just never know, right? 5 days after the World Series is over, restricted free agents become unrestricted free agents. That is the Juan Sotos of the world, the Pete Alonsos of the world, the Corbin Burns of the world. You can go on and on with all the other guys. There's talk about Roki Sasaki being posted by his team. There's a lot of information that goes into him being posted by his team, and that is something similar to what the Ohtani situation developed into with many teams that could be involved, depending on what the player really actually wants. If he's posted by the team, it's a whole new ball game, because it involves international free agent money. And because Sasaki is under the age of 25, the rules are very different from players posted from Japan. So it involves international free agent money. It involves a lot less money than what Yamamoto got. A hell of a lot less money because of the fact of the situation of him being younger. So we'll get into all that during this. I am going to do a video about Roki Sasaki probably in a day or two. So I'll bring out more of the information. I'm going to talk about his stats. I'm going to talk about his age and why that's important in regards to him getting posted and more teams involved in him. And also the fact that the Mets can use their teams have to use their international money because he's under the age of 25. And that is something that is very crucial to, international free agents and what the Mets do overall during the international signing period. So, all right, guys, the Mets' first offseason signing is, of course, a reliever, because David Stearns is always cooking that up. And I brought it up on my phone really quickly. So the Mets are in agreement with right-hander Chris Davinsky, a minor league deal. Obviously, you can't make major league deals. You can only make minor league deals and spring training invites. So Davinsky holds a career 3.98 ERA, pitched 19 games out of the bullpen last year for the Rays with a 6.75 ERA. I don't care about the ERA of these bullpen arms, because Reed Garrett basically had ERA over 10 in his career. There's a lot of guys that helped this team that Stearns brought in here, and he's a master at bringing in guys that, might have had successful careers earlier, but, over the last year or so haven't been playing well or pitching well and skewed up their bullpen or the ERA. And that's something that you can just, take off as like, can they get him in the pitching lab? Can they get everything that they've done this year when it comes to the pitchers and how they, changed Mania. They fixed Severino and tipping his pitches. They, they helped David Peterson, even though the injury was a big deal in his surgery. They also put him. There's a lot of guys that came to this organization, excuse me, that talks about the pitching lab that helped them this season. And David Stearns brought it up in his press conference about a week ago, stating that now players that are free agents, even the low tier free agents or even high tier free agents, in regards to the pitching lab, they've seen that it's successful with pitchers on the New York Mets in just 1 year. And that's a big deal for free agents. People don't realize that, because you can always get a guy that wants a prove-it deal that hasn't had a good season. You get him on a prove-it deal, and the pitching lab helps him and figures out what could have been of his problems. And if he, if the work that he puts in the pitching lab shows up on the mound during the season, well, if you have a good season, now you're talking about a nice payday for that pitcher. So it's huge to look at that stuff going forward, because a lot of people laughed at the bullpen moves last year, last offseason. David Stearns, oh look, he's bargain basement shopping for bullpen arms, not really getting a big name or anything like that. Even though he already had Rayleigh, he already had Drew Smith, he already had multiple guys that ended up getting hurt, and that kind of hindered everything he was trying to do to this bullpen, because guys that he didn't expect to be in the 7th and 8th inning had to pitch in the 7th and 8th inning, especially early on, way before the deadline. So, Chris Davinsky is the first signing of the 2025 offseason for the New York Mets, a minor league deal. 3.98 career ERA, 6.7 ERA overall in his career. But I always love those type of signings because of the fact that he is a guru when it comes to picking guys off the scrap heap and making these guys be a part of the bullpen. And Reed Garrett was a huge proponent of that pitching lab and David Stearns' guru status. So that is good news. And I'm not going to be disappointed in any low-tier free agent that is possibly a bullpen arm for this Mets team that can be an invite to spring training, guys that can prove it in spring training and be a part of the bullpen in 2025. That is something to always look out for, because there's always injuries. You always are going to need depth. Even if the guys are in the minor leagues, that could be potential bullpen arms in the future in 2025. So Chris Davinsky, minor league deal for the New York Mets. So what I was talking about Sasaki, I'll get into in my video tomorrow or the next day. But in a nutshell, there's been a lot of talk about the Mets sending a tremendous amount of resources to scout Roki Sasaki in Japan, similar to what they did in the 2020 or 2024 season 2023 season into the offseason going into 2023 or 2024. They sent a tremendous amount of resources to Yamamoto. The difference with your Sasaki that I don't think a lot of people understand is that this is not a Yamamoto situation. This is not the highest bidder is automatically going to get him, or where he prefers to go, quote unquote, makes it a lot easier for a team like the Dodgers, who he was always trying to go to, but used the Mets and the Yankees as a platform to raise the Dodgers' price to where they wanted it. This is different. This depends on who is really going after Sasaki and who is going to use the most or a lot of their international signing bonus money to sign Sasaki if he is posted. Because again, he is under 25, which is a totally different rule set than Yamamoto. And I bring up Yamamoto because they both are starting pitchers. The similarity should be to Ohtani, because when Ohtani got posted and became a quote-unquote MLB free agent, he was under a different set of rules than Yamamoto. Ohtani is similar to the Sasaki situation if it does happen. Ohtani couldn't sign a massive deal or go to the highest bidder like Yamamoto did, because Ohtani was under the age of 25. He could not go to any team that was the highest bidder. It ended up being international free agent money. He can't sign a max deal. He has to sign a small deal that can lead to, obviously a guy that is under team control for a couple of years, similar to what you saw Ohtani was with the Angels. So that is something that you have to look at when it comes to Sasaki. So the Mets could love Sasaki, but they might not be the favorite because they got the deepest pockets, they can't just overspend everybody. That's the issue that Sasaki is going to go into, because there could be small market teams, or like the Angels, who are not a small market team, but they are kind of like the second tier of contenders, so to speak, or pay salary wise, where he went. It's still obviously Los Angeles, Southern California, so that's always a team that you always have to watch out for, because if you got international signing bonus money and you're not afraid to use it, or you're not going to use, you don't mind using some of it on Sasaki, that's something that you have to look at. So Sasaki is going to be very interesting and probably one of the key targets for the New York Mets going into this offseason, because, well, they got a lot of free agents. They basically have a very minimal rotation, at this point. You got David Peterson, you got Senga. That's basically it at this point, and that is something that you have to look at going forward. All right, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. There's been a ton of talk about, are the Toronto Blue Jays going to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because this is his last year of his deal, and this is where David Stern does his best work, right? He loves to make deals like this where the guy is going to cost you for 1 year, but could have a massive year in a contract year, and then you're talking about helping your team and not having that long-term contract over your head. And Vlad Guerrero Jr. is a big possible target if the Pete Alonso situation doesn't work out. That's why Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Christian Walker is obviously a free agent as well. That's another person the Mets might look at, since he is, yes, a little bit older, but it's going to be a lot less a deal than Pete Alonso, and you might have similar production, or at least close enough production where it's not going to hurt you overall. That is something that you also have to look at as well. But Vladimir Guerrero is probably not going to be traded. I think it's going to happen probably late into the winter meetings, or late right before spring training. And why do I say that? Because I think the Christian Walker and Pete Alonso signings, wherever they sign, is going to have a huge impact on a team that might have been in on Pete Alonso or Christian Walker very hard and lost out on him, and now they're a desperate team looking to fill that first base spot, and Vlad Guerrero is probably going to be on their list. I think Vlad Guerrero is going to be traded. There is no benefit for the Toronto Blue Jays in keeping Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on this team when Toronto basically has been a huge disappointment the last 2 seasons with the tremendous amount of money they spend in free agency trying to get better, and they've basically been a third-place team in the AL East for the last couple of seasons when they've been picked to win the division multiple years, and they've been a huge disappointment. I don't think they're going to keep Vladimir Guerrero Jr. People can say, oh, you can keep him at the deadline, but sometimes you might get screwed where teams that might be looking to trade, possible trade contenders, might not need a first baseman, might not even need a DH. They might need a shortstop. They might need an outfield. They might not even pitching, and you might find yourself in a Toronto Blue Jays situation where they don't have suitors for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And yeah, a team might say, we could use Vladimir Guerrero Jr. if we needed to, but we're not paying that tremendous price. So it would be a very fun, I guess you can say, proposition if David Stearns looks at that way, saying, well, I only got to pay Vlad Guerrero for 1 year at least for, $20 million or so. Or it's not even, I think it's like $15-16 million. And instead of paying Christian Walker close to 20 or over 20, or even Pete Alonso closer to 25 to 30 for long-term deals, even though Christian Walker probably would be a 3-year deal. But Pete Alonso, worrying about that 6-7 year deal is something that obviously David Stearns got to talk about. I think that David Stearns is going to be very firm in his offer to Pete Alonso. I don't think it's going to be much more. Look, Pete Alonso does deserve a little bit more money on that quote-unquote offer the Mets gave Pete Alonso earlier in the season, or if not right before the season, that I think was very fair. It was team-friendly somewhat, but I think it was a very fair deal considering the fact that I think there is a team that's going to be giving Pete Alonso close to $200 million, if not $200 million, and maybe even a seventh year. And I don't think the Mets are going to go there. I think the Mets are probably going to add between $10 and $15 million to their overall offer, but I don't think they're going to give him any extra year. And I think that's the issue when it comes to Pete Alonso. I think he wants that seventh year. And I think a similar situation with Judge, where Judge wanted that extra year given from the Yankees to take the Yankee deal before he decided to go to the Giants or the Padres, who gave him that extra year. So I think that's going to be the discussion with Pete Alonso. I think there's going to be a team like the Cubs, like the Mariners, maybe even the Yankees. You heard a little bit of rumors about that the Yankees could be a target. Obviously, they're not going to have a first baseman after this year. Rizzo's a free agent. They can be, obviously Pete Alonso's not going to be their first option. It's obviously Juan Soto. But would you be shocked if Juan Soto gets signed? Not saying the Mets, but say he ends up elsewhere, the Dodgers, the Mets, I don't know, the Cubs, wherever, but not the Yankees. Then I could see the Yankees make a panic move and sign Pete Alonso to the offer he's looking for because they need a first baseman. And that would be something that they can actually look at going forward. Juan Soto. Do I need to say anything else about Juan Soto? Right? He is still a Yankee. He is playing Game 5 of the World Series. But there has been attempts of the Yankees trying to have conversations to start up contract talk. But Juan Soto is a Boris guy. Boris doesn't like to do that with his high price, his high value free agent, the guy that's at the top of the ticket. The guy who is the main free agent of the offseason, he does not listen to offers during the season. He is not going to re-sign Juan Soto during the season. As much as Juan Soto might love it in the Bronx, doesn't matter. Juan Soto, and I want to make this clear for anybody who disagrees, you are very much mistaken. Juan Soto is not Aaron Judge when it comes to free agency. Too many people brought that up on WFAN when, Yankee fans had a fit that Mets fans were talking about Pete Alonso. Yet I hear Yankee fans talk about the Mets fans so much more while their team is in the World Series, and I don't even hear the Dodgers out of their mouth more than the Mets fans. Very crazy to me. The fact that you need to worry about Mets fans, let us talk about Juan Soto. We are talking about our offseason. Right? We're going to, rattle the apple cart a little bit because we like pissing off the Yankee fans, right? They were down 2-0, then it was 3-0. So Yankee fans are on the Verrazano Bridge right now, ready to jump off, right? So, remember, we are talking about our offseason. Juan Soto is going to be a big talking point for Mets fans and the Mets. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it. Just because it gets your panties in a bunch that we're talking about your guy at the moment shouldn't be a concern of you. You're in the World Series. Worry about that. You should be embarrassed, Yankee fans, not only about the idiot fans that are in the stands that I can guarantee you are this close to throwing stuff onto the field today because it was that close. Mets live rent-free. Yankee fans, I agree. And you know what? It's a fact, right? You always talk about the little brother. The little brother shouldn't get in Big Brother's head, right? It shouldn't. Right? But it takes one haymaker to realize that, hey, maybe we're not so much of a little brother anymore. And I think I truly believe this. And Yankee fans, Mets fans, Dodger fans, Cubs fans, Juan Soto's going to the highest bidder. The reason why I say that is not necessarily because Juan Soto's the top ticket, the top player on the free agent market. Scott Boras last year had a very bad offseason in regards to his top players, where a lot of guys were expecting big contracts and they were settled for 1-year deals, 2-3-year deals with a lot of money, but it was very short deals. We know players don't like that. They like the security of a long-term deal. Scott Boras is in a different mindset this year. He's seeing red. This guy is going to want every penny possible for Pete Alonso's, the Juan Soto's, Corbin Burns. All those guys are his top free agent targets, players on the free agent market. He is going to remember last offseason and how bad he performed. He is not going to make that mistake again. He's going to the highest bidder for all of his players. That involves Pete Alonso, that involves Juan Soto, that involves Corbin Burns. He is not making that mistake last year. He decided to not take big deals for his clients, seeking out another big deal for his client and try to get one team to battle each other for that same player, and it backfired on him. He is not making that mistake again with his 3 top free agent targets. He's not. Juan Soto is going to the highest bidder. And I'm not claiming it's going to be the Mets, but he's going to the highest bidder. If the Yankees are the highest bidder, he's going back to the Yankees. It's just that simple. So Juan Soto can be talked about in Mets fans. It doesn't matter. Ricky Stakes, Wardy NYN keeps talking smack about your channel. Okay. Doesn't bother me. Right? I do my thing. He does his thing. You watch his channel. People watch my channel. I don't care. Don't bother me one bit. Again, little brother, big brother, right? Right? Somebody else is living rent-free in somebody else's head. I'm not worried about it. M. Bryant, I don't know why these freaking comments are just not pulling up. I see a couple. Phase 114, ESPN said Soto will go for 740. I mean, he'll try. I mean, look, if there's it's supply and demand, right? If somebody's willing to pay it, it's probably going to happen, right? That's just how it works. ESPN said, let's see, what else we got? Okay, here it comes, the comments. At least we're in the series. Yeah, and Brian, I agree with you. You are in a series, right? But again, it shows you when you actually play good teams what happens. And again, don't take yesterday as like a takeoff point for Yankee fans. If you win today, then that's a takeoff point. I think yesterday is skewed in many Yankee fans' mind is that the Dodgers were pitching a bullpen game, right? That was probably a game they had on their little calendar, probably put down as a loss prior to the series start. That's a fact, right? So remembering that they pitched Knack and Honeywell the majority of this game and basically let them out there to die doesn't really make me or at least doesn't make me feel that the Yankees have all this momentum going into today's game. They might. And I think the momentum has nothing to do with the next game, as I said many times with the Mets and any baseball game. I think the momentum is more in-game, clearly, right? I think Yankee fans can agree with that. Yesterday, after Volpe hit the grand slam, the momentum shifted, right? I think in-game momentum is a hell of a lot more important than game to game, right? If Cole doesn't have it today, you're not winning. It's just a pretty good fact. So, again, you got to remember, right? Look, I never call a series dead, right? I never do that. I didn't do that with the Mets. I didn't do that with the Yankees after 3-0, right? It's obviously, look, when one team has come back ever from 3-0, and it was the Red Sox against the Yankees in the ALCS, there's always that look, history changes often, right? There's always somebody that's always going to do it. Can it be the Yankees? Of course they can, right? It's going to be a tough test. We all know that. But I think if they win today, then the possibility is more real than people are leading on. Right now, I think yesterday's game, look, Dave Roberts did it to the Mets in game 2. He gave up on game 2. Dodger fans talked about it. He did it again yesterday. He gave up. After the grand slam, he gave up on the quote-unquote leverage pitchers that he usually uses in big spots. He did, right? And even with that, it was a 5-4 game until a little bit later in the game. So the game was still close, and the Dodgers were giving up on the game until he basically used the rut of his bullpen, which is Honeywell and Knack. So, again, give credit for the Yankees for not laying over and dying and getting swept, right? That would have been a big embarrassment, right? They won one game, right? Get it to game 6, because that's when it really matters. Get it back to LA, and that's when it really matters. All right, let's see. Mets need to get good play, not trash play. Well, we'll see. Let's see. Series ain't over until final out. I agree. I never called the Yankees done. I never said it to any team. I'm sorry. I always think a team can always come back, right? I said this in the NLCS as well, and I said this in the NLDS. The hardest game to win is the clinching game for any team. That's the hardest game because you got the other side of it where, like the Yankees yesterday, we're a desperate team, right? There's no mistake in that. That's not an insult. It's a fact. The Mets were a desperate team going into game 5 of the NLCS. The Phillies were a desperate team going into game 4, in the NLDS. The Dodgers were a desperate team in the NLDS against the Padres, right? That's just how it works. Desperate teams, a lot of the times, are a little bit more focused because your season can end if you lose. Now, that desperation could lead you to mistakes, which usually ends up happening when the odds are very much against you, right? So, we'll see, right? Obviously, they got to play the game, right? The game is not played on paper, right? I don't care about past results, right? Did the Red Sox care about past results in 04 against the Yankees down 3-0? No, right? It takes a hell of a lot of grit and a hell of a lot of great play and no mistakes to come back from a 3-0 deficit, right? I never call a team out, even though I hate both teams in a World Series, right? But maybe if the Yankees had home field advantage, I can see them coming back. I'm gonna say I think they're gonna win today. I think it's gonna be a close game until the end. I think they will win. I think Cole's gonna get rocked, but I think it's gonna be. I think Boone's gonna take because I think Boone's gonna take out Cole quick enough where the bullpen for the Yankees are gonna hold them down a little bit, and it's gonna be a situation where I think the Yankees are gonna win like a 6-5 game or something like that. So, and take it to game 6. And I think that's important. Look, are you going to have a 28 World Championship? I don't believe so. But that doesn't mean that pride isn't something as well, right? As much, right? You haven't made the World Series in 15 years, right? So not getting embarrassed by winning yesterday kind of kept you away from embarrassment. Winning today, there's no embarrassment at all. You just lost to a better team. That's it in the World Series. That's something that, you're going to be disappointed that you lost the World Series, but you can keep your head up high saying, all right, they fought back. Because weren't Yankee fans talking about that? They wanted to see some fight from this team. They saw some yesterday. If they see enough today to win another game, even if you do lose in game 6 or even game 7, you showed pride. And I think that's important going forward for the Yankees, to be quite honest with you. And Brant, they heard they want DeGrom back. No, that was a report where the Rangers, if you look at it closely, the Rangers are trying to shed payroll. right? So the automatic thing is that, oh, look, DeGrom, Mets. The Mets are not going to get DeGrom, all right? They're not trading top prospects and taking on all that money for a guy who's pitched, 8 times in 2 years? Not happening. Yeah, look, I think every outfielder free agent that has some merit to him is going to be an option, right? The Mets technically don't have a center fielder. The Mets technically do have a right fielder in Marte, but that's not going to stop them from going to get guys that are better, right? If the Mets end up with Anthony Santander, Corbin Burns, and a couple of bullpen pieces, that's a pretty damn good offseason, in my opinion. So, and I think here's the difference between Juan Soto for the Mets and Juan Soto for the Yankees. If the Yankees don't get Juan Soto, they're in trouble. If the Mets don't get Juan Soto, it's not the end of the world for the Mets. I think that's something that has to be talked about a lot more than just, oh, well, if the Mets don't get Juan Soto, well, the Yankees won. Well, yeah. But again, they have a lot of situations where, again, it shows you that Judge and Soto isn't enough, right? Who won that game yesterday? It wasn't Judge. It wasn't Soto. It was Anthony Volpe. Let's see. Let's check the comments, guys. We don't want Met retreads. We got Dodger. Yeah, you don't want Met retreads because you can't fix them, right? The Mets actually did a damn good job taking Yankee retreads and making them into a better pitcher than they were with the Yankees. And even though Harrison Bader didn't work out at the end, he was a big proponent of keeping his team afloat in April, May, and early June. So let's see. Yankees didn't show any fight, so yesterday I don't see it continuing. Yeah, well, we'll see. Trying to catch up on the comments, guys, because it's delayed for some reason. Explosive. Matt Harvey was at Derek Jeter's last game, so and that was when he was a Met. So, yeah. Let's see. Mets will be back to 500 next year. I mean, maybe. Yeah, and Chris says it best, right? Mets payroll is $141 million, right? That is huge. And that's with all the dead money on the books as well. That are not even on the team anymore, right? They can spend $100 million this offseason and still, probably not succeed the Dodgers, who might spend a little bit more. So, that $100 million spent, you can get Burns, Soto, and bring back Pete Alonso. You can do all that, and you're probably not even spending $80 million. That's a possibility, and still have $20 million to work with. Like, that's crazy. Herb, yeah, it's possible. They could, though, but again, the player can force his hand, and Sasaki's one of the best pitchers and one of the best players in the Japanese league. Same way Ohtani forced his hand, because if you remember going back to Ohtani, he says he wasn't going to play for the Japanese league if they didn't post him. He was going to sit out that year, and then the following year he would have been able to be a major league free agent. So Sasaki can do that as well. He can threaten and say, "I'm not playing for you guys." So we'll see. We will see. Let's see. Let's see. Got a couple of Yankee fans in here, which I expect. Yeah, easy. I don't look. Will the Mets bring Maton back? Not on that club option, right? Will they bring him back at a cheaper deal? Maybe. People forget Phil Maton was our best reliever down the stretch. He wasn't good in the playoffs, but I truly believe he was burned out. Right? I'm not saying that he's going to be our 8th inning guy or our 7th inning guy, but I wouldn't be shocked if Stearns bring Phil Maton back on like a $2 million deal, but not for that club option. My Holy King, don't you think Soto is too expensive? No. He's 26 years old, and the Yankees wouldn't be where they are if it wasn't for Juan Soto. Soto is not leaving the Bronx, Rob. Stop. I'm not spreading fake news. I'm spreading facts, because if he didn't want to leave the Bronx when he signed an extension that the Yankees tried to offer him multiple times during the offseason when they traded for him and during the season, right, he's going to the highest bidder. If the Yankees aren't the highest bidder, he's not going back to the Yankees. As much as you think he loves it there, and he might. Right? And I'm not saying that he's going to the Mets. See, Yankee fans mistake it. See, Yankee fans think that they're their only team in Major League Baseball and they're the prime jewel, but they're not the same Yankees. They're just not. They're not the 90 Yankees. They're not the historic Yankees. This is a totally different, feel of the Yankees. They really are, right? It's not the same, right? I've seen it in time. I mean, Judge was this close to going to the Giants and the Padres, and that was your homegrown guy, right? Juan Soto has no ties to the Yankees at all. And by the way, he was homegrown for the Washington Nationals, and they offered him a major deal, and he said no. So if you don't think Juan Soto is not taking the biggest offer, he's not going for less money. He's not going back to the Yankees for less money. He's not Aaron Judge. Totally different. Exactly. I brought it up, guys, and Chris is bringing it up in the chat. Mets hot stove is going to be on one this offseason. Hope you're ready. And listen, we're here for you. Me and CP are going to be here all offseason. You think pre-games and post-games was a lot of our face? Mets hot stove. I mean, it's not just going to be one day a week, guys. It's going to be, multiple days a week. It might be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It might be a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday situation, depending on news, depending on scheduling. Me and Chris haven't really talked about how many days a week, but I'm assuming early on we're going to start with 2, maybe a little bit closer to the middle of November, near Thanksgiving, we might do 3. When things pick up, we might do every freaking day, right? I think it was 2022. I was doing Mets hot stoves solo every single day because it was so much news. So it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. And guys, make sure you see that Twitter handle, NYM Hot Stove. Follow that on X, guys. Not just my X and Chris's X, TMWR NYM at CPNY Sports, NYM Hot Stove. Follow that. That's the official Mets Hot Stove podcast on X, guys. That's where we're going to be going live, not just on our channel X, but also there as well to bring more eyes to that stream. That's the important thing, guys. All right, let's keep on. All right, let's see. Alonso and Soto will be Yanks, Rob. Well, that's funny because your owner says that $300 million is not sustainable. If you get Alonso and Soto, it's way over $300 million. So that's not happening. All right. I think you're pushing getting Juan Soto. I think Hal's going to cry in his corner when he sees how much Juan Soto is going to get. And I don't think he's winning that bid. And I'm not saying it's going to be the Mets. I truly believe that there's going to be a team other than the Mets, not even the Dodgers. Watch out for the Cubs, guys. I'm telling you this right now. The Cubs are a team that I think are ready to strike. They're going to be heavily in on Pete Alonso, and I would be shocked if they're not on big on Juan Soto. Juan Soto staying in the furthest, the closest east you can get. He's staying necessarily on the East Coast area, right? I don't think he's going to go anywhere west of, Texas. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he might go to a Midwest team like the Cubs. But I don't think he's going to be anywhere close to Texas and West. Let's see. Brandon Lowe is an interesting. I don't think the Rays are going to decline his club option because I think They would take on that option thinking that they can trade him at the deadline. Yankees are the only team in baseball people care about. I think that's not true anymore. I think the Dodgers take that mantle, to be quite honest with you. Chris, we're going to be talking about that a lot. I'm on board with you with that. I think that, Juan Soto is a guy that have talked about playing for the Mets and not even saying about the Yankees. I think it's a bigger deal than people are leading on. And again, it's the highest bidder. And if the Yankees are the highest bidder, he's going there. But we'll see. All right, I'm just checking the comments, guys. I apologize. I'm just trying to catch up because it's delayed on me for some reason. Yankees always beat the Mets every year. Let's see. Yeah, easy. See, the Giants are ready to strike, but I think the problem is, I think Pete Alonso's not going to. I think that Seattle's going to go heavy after Pete Alonso. I don't think Pete Alonso's going to the West Coast, to be quite honest with you. I think he's going to Chicago the furthest. I don't think he's going anywhere else. All right, so Corbin Burns is another one. Obviously, going to be a Mets. Dolo Mets passed on Soto on during his tryouts. Yeah, 29 other teams did. This wasn't a situation where the Nationals were the only team. The Yankees passed up on Juan Soto in his tryouts. So the Mets did too. A lot of them did. All right, so what trades to look out for? I talked about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I do think Blake Snell might come up in conversation as well. Again, when the hot stove stream show kicks off, whenever the World Series is over, that's going to be talked into depth, right? This is the hot stove show is all about going into depth on all the free agents and the Mets payroll and the trade scenarios and all the trade options that the Mets could have, right? I think Blake Snell is probably an option, right? If Sasaki doesn't get posted, if the Mets lose out on Corbin Burns, you're going to start listening to, hey, Blake Snell could be an option, right? The Mets were rumored about trying to trade for Blake Snell at the deadline. So it's going to be very interesting to see where the Mets are going to go trade-wise. I think Vladimir Guerrero is option C if they don't sign Pete Alonso or if they don't go after Christian Walker. I think Vlad Guerrero is a guy that they can go after. Let's see. Yanks are so cheap, but what about moving Vientos to first and platooning Beatty? I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think you can play around so much after the year the Mets had, right? And if anybody thinks that's a fluke this year, you're an idiot because you don't have a fluke of 100 games, all right? Right? If that's the case, then the Yankees are a 500 team for the last final games of 100 games of the final 100 games of the season. So you can take it for what it's worth either way. Right? The Phillies were barely over a 500 team their last 100 games. The Yankees were barely a 500 team the last 100 games. And the Mets were 20-plus games over 500 the last 100 games. Right? It wasn't just the pitching that became a problem. Remember, the Mets had a down season from Pete Alonso, a down season from Nimmo, a down season from McNeil, and still won 89 games and made the NLCS. Right? It was the other guys. It was Vientos. Oh, by the way, Alvarez not playing well. So a lot of players didn't play to their expectations, yet the Mets won 89 games in a tough division, a tough National League. So to think that they're not, I don't think they're going to do that. I think moving Vientos would be a mistake. I don't think you want to mess up something that worked. Right? I'd rather you sign, a 1-year deal for a first baseman that might be a stopgap for a guy like a Ryan Clifford that might be coming up the minor leagues rather quickly. He might be here in 2020, late 2025, if not 2026. So you might not do that. That's why long-term deals is probably not the best way to go at first base because of the options the Mets have. Let's see. I agree with that. Keep Vientos at third. Well, it's also, I agree with you. I always think that when your team has a chance to make the playoffs, you do everything you can to make your team as good as possibly possible to make a run in the postseason, right? If the Mets would have got Blake Snell, guess who would have been pitching game 6 of the NLCS? Blake Snell, right? I'm not saying that that would have been different and the outcome would have been different. But again, when you have a guy who hasn't pitched that many innings in a couple of years in Sean Manaea, he broke down. Severino broke down. He hasn't pitched that many innings since 2018, right? That was the issue. Our pitchers ran out of gas. That was a fact. You've seen it. So we'll see. Well, Brant, I'm curious of why you concern yourself with the Mets at all. You're in Game 5 of the World Series against the Dodgers. The Mets shouldn't even be on your mind. Like that's what I don't understand, right? The Mets are in their offseason. We're talking about Juan Soto because he's going to be an option this offseason for the Mets as a free agent, right? I'm talking about the World Series because the Yankees and the Dodgers are playing. I'm bringing that up because it's the World Series, right? I haven't said anything that says that the Yankees can't re-sign Juan Soto. I can't say anything the Yankees ain't going to sign Pete Alonso or other guys. The fact that Yankee fans are so fixated on the Mets while they're in the World Series is embarrassing. You don't deserve to win the World Series just by talking about the Mets so much. Like, stop. Worry about the Dodgers. Because if you lose today, you basically border in embarrassment in the World Series, right? This was the matchup of all matchups for ESPN, Fox, everybody. And the Yankees haven't held up their end of the bargain at all, right? Yesterday was a game they needed to win. They would have been, I mean, that World Series wouldn't even be talked about. And it's Yankees-Dodgers. So don't worry about the Mets. Trust me, don't worry about the Mets. You have all offseason to talk about the Mets while we're taking your best player. So remember that. Let's see. Yeah, Alcantara, remember, he's coming off of a Tommy John surgery. I always worry about that. But if you can get him cheap, different story. Soto will never go to a team that had players with long hair and beards. He played for the Washington Nationals. They won a World Series based on guys that were looking like freaking cavemen. Like, come on. Yeah, Gabo, but you know what? They're on my channel, right? I appreciate they're on the channel, but again, yeah, well, again, what I say ruffles Yankee fans, feathers a little bit, that's on them, right? I'll tell you right now, if the Mets were in the World Series against any other team but the Yankees would be so far from my mind, right? I truly believe if the Mets were in the World Series, I don't think the Yankees would be in either the Dodgers or the Mets, to be quite honest with you, and that's a fact. Like again, the Yankees got an easy path to the World Series, and just because they won yesterday and realizing the situation, besides the Volpe home run, the game was still in hands at 5-4 before the Dodgers put Knack and and Honeywell in the two bottom feeders of their bullpen. So, but again, they desperate. That's why I said the hardest game to win is the clincher, and the Yankees were borderline. They were on the verge of being embarrassed yesterday. They did it. They won. Good for them. They're not embarrassed at this moment. But if you lose handily today, I mean, the World Series was a complete bust. Let's see. All right. So the final thoughts of today, guys, is again, if the World Series is over today, tomorrow starts Mets Hot Stove with myself and CP. So how do you stay in touch? How do you make sure you know the Hot Stove is starting? The show is starting, right? This will be the biggest Hot Stove show on YouTube. I'm going to tell you that right now. We had a pregame show when nobody had a pregame show. Nobody cared early on about the pregame, right? It was slow trailing, right? We weren't getting the views that we were expecting early on, right? Even when the Mets were bad in May, it started to get bigger viewership and it started to get noticed more. By the end of the season, it was just running crazy views. In the postseason, forget about it. This hot stove show is going to be where you want to go. Not only do you get one opinion, you get two opinions and perspectives with myself and CP, right? We're going to work hard this offseason to bring you every news that we can find. And sometimes I might not be there. Sometimes Chris might not be there. But we'll always have a show when there's news, regardless of the situation. And we're going to work also hard to get guests on our shows, not guest other content creators, which we'll do from time to time. I want to work hard on getting beat reporters for the Mets, MLB reporters, radio people that might know a little bit more than us, so we can get more information out there to you. So how do you do that? Follow our X accounts at TMWRNYM, at CPNY Sports, and of course the official Hot Stove account at NYM Hot Stove on X. Follow those guys. Again, be on the lookout. There will be a giveaway on the new X account, NYM Hot Stove. You got to follow that account because that will be where I post the giveaway and how you get entered to win that giveaway. It's going to be very simple, right? You're going to have to follow the X account, follow all three X accounts. You're going to have to subscribe to our channels and repost on your account that post. And then when all that happens, we'll do the giveaway. All right, guys. With that said, World Series Game 5 is tonight. If it's over, Hot Stove will be kicking and running, ready to go. We're putting out our final details on our intro with a new music song, with a new song, with a new intro video. As Chris is putting together a video, I put a couple of songs together. I'm making Chris decide what song to use that fits well with his intro that he's working on. And you know what? We might even put an outro. Who knows? We might set that up as well. But everything's going to be ready to go when the Hot Stove is going to start. Hopefully that's tomorrow because I want to get the offseason started. I want to start talking about how to improve this Mets team going forward for 2025. So with that said, guys, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, follow NYM Hot Stove, the new official Mets Hot Stove podcast account on X. With that said, guys, have a great night. Thank you for tuning in to Mets Talk Live Offseason Edition right here on the channel. Have a good night, guys. Enjoy Game 5 of the World Series. Good night. Let's go, Mets. And I'll hopefully see you for a Mets Hot Stove tomorrow. Good night, guys. Let's go, Mets.
In the dead of night, full of echo. Concrete jungle, dreams bust to grow. Mets in the air, chase glory, no fear. Broken backs, but hearts steer clear. OMG, the chaos, what a scene. Streets buzzing like a machine. Grimace from the shadows, chills on my spine. Past haunts, the future shine.